Today, we are going to learn the illusory world. The author said that he is going to share some Buddhist knowledge with people who haven't entered the Buddhist path and have a relaxed and enjoyable cultural exchange. He believes that the Buddha's wisdom can bring light to everyone, and the Buddha's compassion can bring happiness and joy to everyone. Why discuss the Buddhist worldview? First, we cannot regard Buddhism as an ordinary religion, let alone superstition. Buddhism is a culture. In modern terms, many of its views and concepts are very scientific, which are indispensable in our life. Without these concepts, without understanding the truth of the world, we will make many mistakes and experience various sufferings and afflictions in our lives. Therefore, it is necessary for us to introduce the Buddhist worldview here. The Buddhist worldview. Most people who live in this world are ordinary people. In all ordinary people's minds, there are three common afflictions: greed, anger, and ignorance. In the language of Buddhism, they are called the three poisons. After being afflicted by the three poisons, our minds lose freedom. When these afflictions intensify, we will become furious, thereby hurting ourselves and our loved ones, and even harming society. So, how can we control and eliminate these afflictions? There are many methods in Buddhism, some of which are based on its worldview. Buddhism encompasses various views, some of which transcend the imagination of ordinary people. However, in general, they can be summarized as the three views: the worldview, the view of life, and the view of values. For example, due to not understanding the true nature of money, emotions, marriage, and relationships, we have numerous sufferings and afflictions and are influenced negatively. If we can have an objective, fair, and scientific understanding of the world, and view the world and life with the right insight, we can reduce afflictions and live a life that is less exhausting and more meaningful. The two truths. In terms of the Buddhist worldview, we shall first talk about the two truths: the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. Let's take an example. When we look at the same pebble with our naked eye and a microscope, the results are different. If we observe the pebble with our naked eye, then no matter how focused or attentive we are, we can only see a still, motionless object. However, if we observe the pebble with a microscope, as the magnification of the microscope increases, the pebble will gradually become molecules, atoms, atomic nuclei, electrons, protons, neutrons, and finally become quarks and other particles. Moreover, each of these particles is constantly in motion. When we look at the pebble with our naked eye, it is motionless, but when we look at it with a microscope, it becomes different. Every particle in it is in motion. For instance, electrons are orbiting the atomic nucleus at a speed of over 600 miles per second. This rapid motion makes the atom look like a ball. In other words, in the seemingly motionless pebble, actually there is nothing motionless. Everything is in motion. This is the result of observing it with a microscope. When we observe a pebble or a piece of gold under a microscope, we can see electrons orbiting the atomic nucleus at a speed of over 600 miles per second. How fast? The pebble cannot be both motionless and in motion because they are contradictory states. It cannot be contradictory. Its true nature must be one of them. So, which conclusion is accurate and true? Of course, relatively speaking, what we see through the microscope is the true nature of the pebble, and therefore it is the reality. The motionless object we see with our naked eye is false and doesn't align with the reality. It is called an illusion or the conventional truth. What we see as the pebble is just an image that arises in our minds when light shines on the pebble and reflects off it. In reality, the pebble doesn't exist. It is just an illusion. Our naked eye is a very ordinary and mundane sense organ, so what it sees is called conventional. When we see with our naked eye, the motionless object we perceive is true. Hence, it is called truth. What we see through a microscope is considered as the ultimate truth. Of course, the ultimate truth in Buddhism is not so superficial. This is just a lower level ultimate truth. The so-called ultimate truth is the aspect that is closer to the true nature of reality. This is relative. On this level, the ultimate truth is that objects are constantly in motion and impermanent. Ultimate truths are relative. It's important to remember the concept of the two truths, the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. They are a set of relative concepts. Compared to observing the pebble with our naked eye, when we look through a microscope, the pebble is in motion. This is the so-called ultimate truth, which is closer to its true nature. However, this truth is just observed through a microscope. If you were to look at the pebble with the Dharma eye, it would be dependent and empty in nature. In this context, this would be the ultimate truth. The microscope is too mundane, and what it observes is just considered as the conventional truth. Doesn't the Buddha possess the 5 eyes? When you have realized emptiness and look at everything with the Dharma eye, you would find that everything is empty in nature. This is the Dharma eye. You would see the emptiness of all phenomena. They are completely illusory and devoid of inherent nature. When you observe through a microscope, you still see atoms, molecules, electrons, etc. There is still matter. You would believe that electrons have inherent nature, matter truly exists, and things are real. Of course, compared to observing through a microscope, what we see as a pebble with our naked eye is just an illusion, because there is no pebble at all. Where is the pebble? It is just a collection of atoms and molecules. When observing through a microscope, we see that the pebble is composed of molecules and atoms, all in motion. Where is the pebble? There is no pebble to be found. The pebble is like a rainbow. When seeing from a distance, it appears as if there is a rainbow, But when you actually go into the rainbow to look, there is no rainbow to be found. Where is the rainbow? The rainbow is just some light reflected by the mist. Although you see it, it doesn't actually exist. Similarly, where is the pebble? It is nowhere to be found. The pebble is just composed of moving molecules and atoms are composed of protons, electrons, etc. This is what we observe through a microscope. If we further examine the internal structure of a proton, what is it like? Protons appear to be solid and real, but how do particles move inside a proton? Even with the use of a microscope, scientists cannot observe it. Therefore, what is observed through a microscope is still an illusion, not the ultimate truth. It is called the lower-level ultimate truth. So, please bear in mind that the ultimate truth is relative to the conventional truth. The absolute ultimate truth is not relative. It transcends the conventional truth and ultimate truth. It is the union of the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. It is the transcendent truth. The conventional truth and ultimate truth explained above are in a superficial sense. The author uses a metaphor to illustrate the difference between them. I think this metaphor is very good and easy to understand. It helps us understand the deeper relationship between the ultimate truth and conventional truth. They are not two different objects, but rather the same object, the same pebble. One is seen with the naked eye, while the other is seen through a microscope. However, what is seen is completely different. One is the conventional truth, and the other is the ultimate truth. Similarly, from the perspective of the five senses of ordinary beings, everything in life, including people and the external environment, is very real. Even if you use a microscope, it just filters the view. Ultimately, you still observe with the naked eye. Therefore, from the perspective of ordinary beings, everything that is perceived by their five senses is real. Because they directly perceive it, they believe it to be real. This is similar to what we experience in dreams. From the perspective of the dreamer, everything in the dream is very real. The dreamer is attached to everything in the dream, just like in waking life. When you are immersed in a dream, you won't realize that it is a dream. When we are dreaming, we cannot deny the existence of the dream. However, upon waking up, we will realize that everything in the dream was non-existent and false. What we shall first learn and accept is that if we perceive the world with different senses, then every object will appear to be different. The structure of our eyes determines the world we see. If our eyes had a different structure, the world we see would be different from what it is now. What we perceive is entirely the manifestation of our karma, not what our eyes see. Our eyeballs cannot change the external world or create illusions. Our eyes simply let light in. It is our minds that create illusions. Of course, the structure of our eyes is also created by our minds. The eyes themselves are our minds, our karma. They are related with our karma. Your karma determines the structure of your eyes. If your karma determines that you are a human being, you will have human eyes. If your karma determines that you are a tiger, you will have tiger eyes. The world seen with tiger eyes will definitely be different. The structure of our eyes is also determined by our karma. When we perceive the world, the external environment is also determined by our karma. In space, there are countless galaxies. Our galaxy is called the Milky Way, symbolized by Altair and Vega. In the Milky Way, there are over 200 billion stars, all in space. Among the billions of stars, there is a star called the Sun, which is the name we have given it. In the solar system, there are many planets, and one of them is called Earth. On Earth, there is a place called Hui Longguan. Hence, we all live in space. That day, we watched an American movie called Gravity, which was very interesting. The entire movie was shot in space. You can also watch it. I have never watched such a movie. You can visualize yourself in space, and you will feel it in a new way. The movie is in high definition, and the scene looks very real. It's quite good.